Hi everyone, welcome to my short Monday market update. Let's crack straight in. Never a day where the macro doesn't get in the way of a good Bitcoin weekly close, in which it did. Now, my sense is that we had some announcements over the weekend around new tariffs being put on EU countries around Greenland, so that's really heating up. If you've seen some of my content recently, I dive into maybe more of the macro around what's going on in the geopolitics, what's going on in terms of the energy, AI, all that. I think it's all tightly linked. And here, I think this is as simple as major markets are likely going to panic a little bit, throw a bit of a tantrum, just as we've seen every single time previously when random tariffs are announced. We see into the US open hours a bit of a sell-off early for some liquidity, and then we see the US stock market sell off into that, and then we close green either that day or the day after. So I'm not too concerned about this at all. Gold is higher on this news as well, same as silver. So this is just part of playing the course in this fourth turning geopolitical issues and events, never far from the headlines. So Bitcoin had a bit of a flash crash this morning. And when I say flash crash, it was only about 2%. So Bitcoin's still the safest place in the room to be in crypto, that is. Gold is obviously the more safe place to be in during this phase. But that said, Bitcoin is climbing a wall of worry here. And I said that to the masterminds. We avoided narrowly having a fantastic close above the 10 EMA. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that. But we are still above this crucial horizontal here. We're closing there. So we're going to have to wait for this week to finish up, unfortunately, but Bitcoin continues to do its thing. Now, I had a session, a webinar, essentially with Checkmate. I just had an hour-long session. It was fantastic. We'll release some clips soon around that and go from there. But we were of the view, I think technically 100K and psychologically it just makes a ton of sense. We get above 100K, 102, that weight's lifted off the shoulders of the market, and the 4-year narrative is total bullshit, gone, done, which I think it is. And then we begin to move higher, and it's that veil that gets lifted off the market. Now, for him, very, very similar thought process. He's using, though, the short-term holder cost basis, which is at, here it's about 98,000. Oh, there you go, short-term cost basis, 97. So yeah, 98,000 almost on the T. He's using that as his guidepost. We get above that and 100K, then we're sweet. Then we're just motoring higher, new momentum. However, the last time we were in a similar position to this was back in 2020. Now, I think this is a new era. I think we're in since the ETFs got launched, we're in a new type of consolidation pump type scenario. But here we ran straight back into the short-term holder cost basis back in 22. And it was about there when we ran into the 200-day moving average as well. Then we went to a full-blown bear market. So we just have to be of the view here that it could be just repeating right now, where we see a run into the short-term holder cost basis and get rejected, and then we might come back down to 80. That is absolutely on the cards. We're using also the true mean. So the true mean is the realized cost basis, so let's say the average cost basis of Bitcoin investors bought in the market, minus Satoshi's coins and lost coins. That's our floor. So we go over to the Bitcoin chart. The floor for this market is around about where I've got that, maybe even a little lower. I think it's about 81,000 is the true mean, and that's moving up all the time. I'd be quite honestly concerned if we begin to drop anywhere beneath 85, because that is the 100-week moving average. But that's our floor range, 81,000 the true mean. We've held it multiple times. It's holding us up nicely on the chart, just don't want to lose it. And overhead, we've got 100,000. So we are very much in no man's land here, guys. We're in that climb a wall of worry phase. We're in the choppy phase where people might be longing and shorting and getting wrecked a little bit and placing bets on where we're going. But just in the short term, we have no decisive directional bias, other than we're trying to recover here. Check on chain charts here. The hodler dashboard looks in a nice state of recovery, if we're being honest. Also the flows. So Capriol's suggesting that the flows have mean reverting, meaning that ETFs, treasury buying, all of that is beginning to tick up, and we're getting above that all-important level of the Bitcoin mine per day. The oscillator flipping green down here as well. I won't go into this too much, but suffice to say the Bitcoin mine every day is automatically sold on the market, essentially. And if the demand flows from the ETFs and the treasuries are not overcoming that basic sell pressure on the market, then we're likely going to be in a pretty bad state. And if you look at the far side investors in terms of ETF inflows, we had a really solid week last week, really good inflows. Finished the week on an outflow, maybe because of anticipation of something bad was coming down with tariffs. And prior to that week, we were having serious outflows as well. So we need to build a trend here. We need to see that this is getting above. OG whales look like they have pretty much stopped selling. A few are still, selling away, but that big seller has appeared to have stopped for now, which is great. We need to see some sort of organic growth from here going higher. All right, last one, guys, as well. Just want to touch on Ethereum here. So validator execute tumbles to zero, staking demand soars. So ETH is a really interesting investment proposition here because it's one of the better looking charts. I might just go over to ETH versus Bitcoin. So I benchmark all altcoin charts against Bitcoin. ETH is still in a macro uptrend against Bitcoin since this pump through here, and it's holding above all these major moving averages on the daily. It's trying to do it on the weekly, but you can just see here how it's using beautifully this cluster of moving averages to form a base, potentially move higher against Bitcoin. And I think ETH, out of all of it, ETH and Solana, of the two with those institutional flows that ETH and Sol are getting, are the two most likely to do this. Now, ETH still has a bit of work to do on the USD chart, but it's holding beautifully against Bitcoin. But all I want to see here is a weekly close at about 3,350, let's say, get into that little circle there, get above the 100-day moving average there, and just plonk itself there. But this is, a lot of these charts have had big pumps. We've had about a 50% retracement now. We're going to see if this is just another stair in the staircase as we go higher. All right, guys, another week of watching the charts and seeing where we end up. Have a great day. Catch you again soon. Bye-bye.